Icon here going over The Flash and cool episode because KF back in the house. Kid Flash has returned. And it's kind of like I was both happy and sad because when I saw Kid Flash, I was like, yeah, Kid Flash, it's my man Anthony Grant. But then when they when they did the Flash title screen, where they have like when they show like the whole cast going through like the wave of the different transitions, I'm like, wow, like Wally could have been on that list, and he wasn't on the transition list. And I'm like, Ralph's on the like Cecile's on the transition list, like Wally should be on this list, but he wasn't. Whatever. So the episode starts where Wally, he's returned. He's showing everybody what he can do with the Speed Force, with his new, like, magic mumbo-jumbo powers, where he can create flowers, and he uses his Zen to his advantage. Cisco's back. He's like, he ended up traveling the world. He dropped an Atlantis reference, and no one said anything about that. So I'm just like, so we're just gonna gloss over the fact that he brought up Atlantis, because I remember like earlier in the Flash, Atlantis was something that existed on Earth 2. It didn't. Well, it wasn't known on Earth 1, but now now the multiverse, Atlantis is a part of Earth Prime. So I'm just like, Aqualad, Aquagirl, he's just gonna talk about it like it didn't even happen. So whatever. So the reason why Wally showed up was because there was this Russian woman who's being a complete biatch. She was on a helicopter, and her helicopter started like deteriorating. Kid Flash, swooped in, he saved the day. Barry showed up, and he was just like, yo, glad to have you back. So they're so Cisco's back, he knows about the whole situation, and they're trying to investigate what made, the helicopter crash. They end up going to the same Russian woman. She ends up going to Jitters, because everybody goes to Jitters, and she was, she rudely ordered some coffee, and then the same person, the same Meta, who deteriorated her helicopter, rolled up on her at Jitters, because all the villains go to Jitters, and she blasted her with her metahuman powers, which aged her 100 years. Barry, Wally, and Joe, they investigate, and then and Cisco's there too, and then Barry was just like, yo, like she was like 100, her bone marrow or whatever says that she's 100 years old, and then Wally was like, when I rescued the woman from the helicopter, she was like 30. And then, Cisco was like, I know about this metahuman who can control, who can advance, advance things in age, basically. And, Barry was just like, but isn't there somebody who could do that? Wasn't it like the Turtle? And then Cisco was like, no, this is Turtle 2. And that has to be the worst name that Cisco's ever come up with. But we just I could have called her anything. I could have called her the Snail without him. Like Turtle 2, like that's just stupid. So Cisco's like, all right, cool. I'm gonna try to find a way to stop Turtle 2, and I'm back on my Cisco grind. While he was doing his thing, Nash Wells came. Remember in the last episode, Nash was going crazy because the Reverse Flash rolled up on him. Nash went to talk to Cisco. Cisco's like, I ain't got time for you. Nash got mad and walked away. With Cisco trying to figure out how to stop Turtle 2, he tried to come up with some biochemical situation, and Caitlin was offended because she was just like, I'm a biochemist, and you didn't ask me to help you. Because Cisco's whole thing was, he was like, when he went on his journey or whatever, he thought that he would be different, but he was just like, nothing really changed, and I'm still the same person I always was. And he was just, he was just like, I feel like a failure, and my whole thing was ridiculous. And then Caitlin talked to him, and she was like, it's not like that, you just got to find your own path, blah, blah, blah. So and then she was just like, you can start by actually going to see your girlfriend, because you hadn't seen your girlfriend, spending time with Camilla since you got here. She was like, you can also, apologize to Nash. So Cisco's like, all right, cool. So Caitlin's going to finish the weapon they're going to use to stop Turtle 2, and Cisco went to go apologize to Nash and go see Camilla. So he goes and sees Nash, and by this time the Reverse Flash, because for some reason the essence of all the Wells are exist in Nash, and the Reverse Flash was the strongest one to come out. So he actually took over Nash's body. So when Cisco showed up to apologize, he hit him with the hand, and then he beat him up, and then he was just like, remember this, kid? And then he was like, oh my god, it's the Reverse Flash. But then because he's in Nash's body, he doesn't have any speed. So when Cisco realized he didn't have speed, Cisco beat him up. And I was just like, well, who taught Cisco how to fight? So Cisco, he beat up the Reverse Flash, and then I was about to call her Kelly. Joe's wife. I don't know why her Camilla, not Camilla. I don't forgot this woman's name. You know who I'm talking about. So she swoops in and she tases him, and then they take him back to Star Labs and throw him in the pipeline. So now, Wally, he walked up to Barry and he was like, yo, he was like, part of the reason why I came back was because there's something weird going on in the Speed Force. And then Barry was just like, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. The Speed Force will be fine. Mirror Iris, who's still evilly like running the streets, she was talking to Wally. And then she was just like, yeah, I don't know what's going on with Barry. He had this whole situation with the Speed Force last year. And then Wally was like, what situation? Barry didn't tell me. And she was like, oh, no, like the Speed Force and Barry got into an argument. Barry beat the Speed Force up. So, the Speed Force was probably angry at him. So then Wally got mad and he was like, yo, why you ain't tell me what happened with the Speed Force? And then he was just like, it's not a big deal. And now the Speed Force, the way the two of them use it is different because Barry can just enter the Speed Force and walk around. But the way Wally does it, he projects his consciousness. Cecile, that was her name. Cecile. Wally can project his consciousness into the Speed Force. So while he was talking to Barry about what happened, he was using his power to transport both of their consciousness into the Speed Force. They saw the Speed Force in the form of Barry's mom, as always, and she was just like, we're dying, Barry. And then they got kicked out of the Speed Force, and then Wally got mad, and he was just like, yo, you didn't tell me. He was like, if you would have told me something happened, I could have helped you. We could have did it together. But he was like, no, you do what you always do. And this is actually true because, Wally's a speedster. Wally can help you. And Barry never takes his help. Like he never takes him up on his offer. Like he always tries to does always try to do everything himself. That's why Wally left, because he was just like, they had an episode where Barry, when Barry came back out of the Speed Force, he was running around saving the city, and everybody was so wrapped up. They were just like, oh, the Flash is doing this, but something's happening over here. What are we gonna do? And Wally was like, so that's why he left. And he was just, but he told Barry off, and then he got mad and walked away. He ended up talking to his dad, like him and Joe had a conversation, and then, Joe told him, he was just like, look, I understand what you're going through, but remember, Barry's a speedster too, so whatever the both of you are going through, you're going through together. And if you're supposed to be on this whole Zen trip now, he was just like, try to sympathize with him instead of being angry at him. So then Barry, he used Gideon to go into the Speed Force. He spoke to the Speed Force. The Speed Force told him what happened, and then the Speed Force died. So he got to watch his mom die again. So then Wally showed up. Barry ended up talking to Wally, and he was like, listen, what happened with the Speed Force wasn't because of I got into a fight. He was like, during Crisis, when Oliver showed up to the Vanishing Point, Oliver infused Barry with Spectre power, and Barry used the Spectre power to go into the Speed Force. And because he brought Spectre power into the Speed Force, the Spectre power contaminated the Speed Force, and that's why the Speed Force was crumbling. But the Speed Force wasn't mad at Barry. Wally wasn't mad at Barry, because they were just like, listen, anybody in your situation would have did the same thing. So you were just trying to save the world. You actually did save the world, so, all is forgiven. I mean, yeah, we're going to lose our speed in a couple of days, but hey. So because of that, Caitlin, she found she found Turtle 2, and then Wally and Barry, they were just like, yo, KF, Kid Flash and the Flash, one more time, let's do what we got to do. So they run through the city, they go roll up on Turtle. She was at the GCPD. The CCPD. I say GCPD. She's at the CCPD. They rolled up on her, did what they had to do. They knocked her out. Joe got the drop on her. They locked up Turtle 2, and now Kid Flash and BA. That's going to be the last hero. That's going to be the last villain that they take down before they eventually lose their powers. So Wally, Wally was talking to Iris, and Iris was actually the one, like Mirror Iris was actually the one that got him riled up, because again, like Iris told him, that like Barry did it, she was just like, Barry didn't tell you about the Speed Force situation last year. And then when Iris was talking to Barry, she was just like, because Barry told her, he was like, yo, the Speed Force is dead. And then she was like, good, it should die. You should lose your powers. And then he was just like, really, bitch? And then she was just like, yeah, it's time to have your life back. So, and then, when Wally left, he was talking to Joe, and then he was just like, he's going to walk to a peace conference. just to get used to not having the speed. But then, he said to Joe, he was like, and it's crazy that Wally's the only person that picked up on this, but he told Joe, he was like, yo, keep an eye on Iris, because he was like, yo, something's off with her. He's like, something's really off with her, because earlier, Iris and Wally were having that conversation, and then Camilla came in and took their picture, and then Iris freaked out over the fact that she took her picture, and then later on we find out when Camilla looked at her camera, it showed like her reflection shows, it's like a chrysalis, it's just like a crystal formation. So these so the chick who's in the mirror with the real Iris, she's creating these mirror copies of people because she's the mirror master. And when you use a mirror or any sort of reflection or whatever, I guess like a camera or something, it shows like their true form on the inside. So that's why she didn't want her picture taken, which is understandable. And then but Camilla's camera didn't delete the photo. She tried to delete the photo, but the camera didn't delete the photo. So at the end of the episode, Camilla saw it and she was just like, that's weird, why didn't the photo disappear? And then when she looked at the photo again, it showed Iris's true form. And then that's when the mirror Iris came in and she was like, well, you figured it out, bitch, but now I got to kill you. She blasted her with the gun, with some gun, and then Camilla disappeared. So I don't know if she put Camilla in the gun. I don't know if she put her in the mirror, or if they're gonna. Because my guess is that they put Camilla in the mirror, and there's gonna be a copy of Camilla that comes out of the mirror, because this chick is trying to create a mirror army to get her ass out of the mirror. To get her out of the mirror. That's why she doesn't want, because she can control them. That's why she doesn't want Barry to have his speed, and why she tried to pull a rift between Barry and Wally, because she's trying to get them out of the way when her master plan finally unfolds. So then Barry ends up going to talk to Nash, Reverse Flash Nash, and the Reverse Flash was like, I'm gonna get out of here, Barry, and then I'm gonna kill you and your little dog too. And then he was just like, you're losing your speed force is dying, that's why I got my own speed force, motherfucker. And then Barry was like, aha. So he goes upstairs, he talks to Caitlin, he talks to Cisco, and he's like, I need you guys to help me with something. And then she's like, what do you need help with? And he's like, we're gonna build a speed force. And Barry was just like, we're gonna build an artificial speed force. That's how I'm gonna get my speed back. And I'm just like, and Wally's too? Like he didn't even mention Wally. I'm like, that's gangster. But Barry's now gonna try to build his own speed force. So, and that was it. I said, cool episode. We just have to. I just gotta know what the Mirror Master's plan is, because I don't know what this chick is trying to do, and the toll of being in the mirror is starting to get to Iris. So that was it. Next week's episode, we'll see what happens. Let's say I didn't see the coming attractions yet, but we're up to episode like 13, 14, and we'll keep riding this all the way to the end. So thanks for tuning in. Leave a comment, like, and or subscribe. Thank you for watching The Flash. Check out my Black Lightning review that I got up on the channel. And until next time, for The Flash, as always, I'm out this.